Hello and welcome to Raising Excellence, one of the best hours of your day. Hopefully we have figured out all of our microphone issues and everything is good, but if something is not, just let us know and we'll try to fix it for next time. Today is Monday and that means we're introducing a brand new topic and a brand new exercise today. But before we get into that, let me introduce the people that I came here with. First off, in order of appearance on my screen, no particular other order, I have Tim Flynn. Oh, geez, what's your Tim Flynn is the executive analyst. Please welcome Tim.
How you doing? Nice to see you guys.
All right, next on the list, we have Dennis, the freedom facilitator.
Hi, everybody. How you doing?
And third, we have Willow, our trauma consultant. And I am Agnieszka. Oh, sorry, Willow, a trauma consultant. Hey, you don't have any sound, Willow. Willow came a couple minutes late. She just logged in.
She's on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you are. Okay, so hi, Willow, trauma consultant.
Hi, everybody.
Nice. And I'm Agnieszka, and I'm a psychosomatic illuminator. I'm the face reader from the weekend face readings. We've been trying to schedule a face reading the last couple of weeks, but we haven't been successful. But more are coming, definitely. So today we're talking about planning. This is the continuing Tim Flynn's self-discovery course that we've been doing for a few weeks, and we're learning a lot. It's been a really, really great course. And today's topic is 1, 2, 3, step-by-step life outline. So we have shared the exercise that we would like everybody to do. It's a getting things done exercise on our Facebook page already. And it will be in the description of this video after we stop live, like after it publishes. But for now, what do you guys think about planning? Are you good planners? Are you sucky planners? Are you so-so planners?
I'll get into a really good planning mood, and then I don't want to leave it. It's like getting in, comfortable in your comforter. Oh, that's why they call it a comforter. Okay.
Tim, you obviously had something to add.
I'm just listening.
The camera switched to you because you bumped your microphone.
Well, I think planning can be the most difficult because we get in like it has to be a certain way. We have to see the end. We have to know what the outcome is going to be. And the plan is just like a map, but it's not the actual way there. So once you start to experience your journey, you might adjust your plan as you move along and you see different things that lead you to different goals or different ideas. It's like going on a long trip and then deciding that you see something up in the distance that looks interesting, so you're going to take a detour. You're going to check that out, and then that leads you to understanding something else.
My whole life, right there. You just described it.
And so the plan might not be, the most. It might seem like the most efficient way to your destination, but obviously there's going to be some detours.
Yeah. Dennis, you have achieved a lot planning for decades. How did you do that?
Wow. Looking at it from different levels, again, as I'm accustomed to do, like from that holistic perspective, I enjoy applying that for planning as well. So, let's say like on a physical level as a trainer, working out for myself, but also working with clients and helping them to achieve their goals. On those different levels. Let's say, I want to lose some weight, or I want to gain weight, I want to be stronger, I want to improve my technique. And then, okay, let's sit down, let's make a plan what you'll have to do to achieve that goal on a physical level. And then there are certain steps to be taken, certain strategies, certain tactics that you would apply for the plan. You set your goals, then you evaluate them regularly. You will have to shift the plan around, all of that. But then also at a different level, I remember this saying that goes, if you want to make God laugh, tell him about your plans. so so sometimes,
Right.
you know, it's good, like you said, Tim, it's good to have a plan, but then also, you know, are we really the ones making the plans, or, you know, is there a greater plan, so to say, that is coming through, that is expressing itself through us? And then from that point of view, then, you know, maybe it's not even, maybe we shouldn't get too stuck up or too worried. We should never get worried still, but we shouldn't, you know, worry too much about plans and about executing them, while at the same time, you know, I recognize how important it is to have a plan and to have a step-by-step idea. But then, yeah, it's this give and take. So there's two sides to the coin. So I recognize and I use it for myself efficiently, more efficiently now than you know, in my earlier years. But then at the same time, I also try to detach from the notion of, oh God, I have to have a plan. If I don't have a plan, oh my, like I'm all up in the air, because there's something, you know, beyond planning. We are part of a plan already. I feel like that very strongly. And then sometimes it's not figuring out a plan for yourself, but sometimes it's maybe aligning to the plan that you already are part of. You know, that's how
Yeah,
I see it.
I totally agree. Hello, Pamela, our listener. She said good evening, and it's lovely to see the four of us here. So it's lovely to virtually say hello.
Hey, Pam.
That's
Dennis,
funny.
you said something that made me think of a conversation I had with my husband, and I'm not sure where he picked it up because most of the things that we say to each other, we did not come up with. We picked him up somewhere else. Um, he was talking about a map and how people think that a map tells you where you are, where you need to go, and how to get there. But that's not what a map does. A map is just a piece of paper with things written on it that give you like a guideline. So your grandfather or whoever can give you a map and say, well, this is, for some reason, I can't think of any other places other than the Lonely Mountain right now. You know, this is the Lonely Mountain. This is the trolls on the way to get there. And here you are in the Shire. Now, there's a lot in between there. But if you follow the markers, you can kind of get where you're going. But as you're going along, if you get to the trolls and you realize that there's a giant lake in between the trolls, I don't remember if there actually is in Lord of the Rings, making this up, you would write that in there. You'd add it to the map, and then you can pass on this better map to your children. And then maybe when they're scouting around the trolls, they find out that there's actually a giant river that leads up to a better path to the Lonely Mountain. Like, they'll be able to add that in there too. So it's like we have this very simply drawn map, and planning is kind of like adding those steps in there. Like, okay, well, now I have to go this, and now I have to do this, and then I will eventually get there. I don't know how that tied in. I lost my train of thought midway through, and I was like, just go with it.
No, you're doing great. Well,
You're
we got
doing
you.
good.
That's the map is not the territory. That's the NLP concept. Yes.
Yes.
We got your back. Don't worry.
Yay.
It's also like a two-dimensional representation of time. It takes out time out of it, space. It's missing the dimension of all the senses that you would experience as you travel that journey. So you can't really incorporate that into even a movie or a map. It's impossible to do it without experiencing yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it
personally, I tend to feel into my future. Like, where does the spirit move me? What should I be doing next? And then if sometimes I get really specific, intuitive things, like I'm told, you know, show up at Toastmasters at 4 p.m. on Thursday or 6 p.m. on Thursday. But other times I get, you know, just a feeling. It's all good.
So tell us about a feeling or a story where you had an intuition and it turned out to be an elaborate truth or something like that. I know that's a lot to ask, but I'm pretty sure you have 3 or 4 of those in your back pocket.
Some of the ones that I'm thinking of right off the top of my head, they're not airable. But it's more like it's more like manifestation. Like, so it's almost like I'm co-creating my life with the upstairs planner, the planner with the capital P, the God planner, the divine plan for who I really am, right? And I can buck the current. I can push myself. I can grab onto, like, if you think of life as a river, fast flowing river, right? I can grab onto the branches on the side and try to slow my progress down the river, or try to go somewhere else, but the divine plan still takes me ahead, right? So I might as well just enjoy myself and, find a comfortable log, sit on it, and float down the river in comfort instead of worrying about the plan, or how am I going there, or what's going to be the next step. I never worry about the next step. I just kind of go with it. But
You
I
know how
also
it is in.
go ahead.
All right.
Who wants to
So-
go? Because I was like,
You go ahead. You go ahead. Mm-mm.
I was gonna say it was some. Never mind. Go ahead. I lost it.
Sure. So, what came to my mind when you were talking a while ago, Agnieszka, is that when working out, when you start working out and you don't really have a clue, you don't have an idea, you get your instruction, you have the instructor showing you, the exercises, the plan, the routine, so many sets, so many repetitions, do this, do that. He's correcting you. At a certain stage, you'll be able to do your stuff, and then, you don't need that much of a tight supervision. People will come and check in from time to time, and then you would basically have learned, personalized, incorporated your plan, and eventually, like at a far advanced stage, you would actually, and you use that word, intuition. People will train intuitively, so they will wake up, or they will go to the gym, or they will go to the dojo, or whatever, and there is like, okay, like what do I need today? What's there, like it was not pre-planned, but you know what you need right now, what you need to train, which weight to grab, which exercise to do, because you would have experienced and you would have gained so much understanding and about of your body. And you could have planned it much better, but then you just pulled a muscle yesterday, or something came up, or your mind is not all the way there, you can't focus so much, so you're gonna take a few pounds off, the weights, and then you'll adjust intuitively, because you would have the self-confidence, the experience to deal with that, and then you can tune into your intuition. So maybe in a way, having a plan, having guidance, having some a set rule, a map for a terrain is something that in the initial stages we really need, and that's really helpful. But eventually it's really just a tool, and if we hang on and cling on to the tool too much, then we miss that opportunity of actually tapping into something, into our true self, and into our intuition, where we actually know without having to hold on to a little device or tool or map.
But I don't think we need a plan created by someone else. What we need is knowledge, not a plan. Once we have the knowledge,
it's a whole thing,
for
guiding
example,
back to yourself, right?
Yeah, for example, say you want to make a casserole. And Sam, I'll come back to you in just 2 seconds, but hang on, let me just finish this thought. So say you want to make a casserole, right? And you want to make a tuna casserole. And not that I eat tuna, but hey, you want to make a tuna casserole. And you don't have to follow a recipe for a tuna casserole. What you could do is you could read 7 recipes for tuna casseroles, and then you could make your own tuna casserole without a recipe. But it's the knowledge, like the understanding how things fit together in order to make whatever. Same with the exercise plan. And by the way, hello to listener Autonomy students and graduates, which I suspect is Joshua. Sam, did you have something to say?
I was actually going to tie it in with intuitions leading you towards like a planned goal. Don't remember how this ties in, but maybe I'll get there. It was something about how when I finally, like right before I started jiu-jitsu, I was in a really weird place where I was unwilling to admit how angry I was, even though people around me had been telling me, low key, you're quite angry person. I just didn't believe them. It wasn't until I finally was able to settle in that anger and realize, okay, I have a lot of anger in me that I need to get out. And I was like, well, this leads me into planning. I can either take this anger out on my spouse, on random people who upset me. Maybe they deserve it, maybe they don't. Or I can literally go outside and beat my head against a tree. It's not going to do well for me or the tree probably. Or I can actually go and work out some of this stress. when I started to work out some of the stress, it helped me realize that the anger was there for a reason, to motivate me to go do something physical. And I needed the discernment to say, no, it's not okay to scream at your spouse because they didn't unload the dishwasher. But it is okay to be like, I'm just feeling a lot of anger right now because maybe I never got to feel it as a child or in an abusive situation. I was kept from feeling that feeling. I'm going to go let it out in appropriate ways. That discernment is the difference between getting on a plan that is actually working for you versus just planning for something and then doing it and realizing it hasn't actually given you what you wanted.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. And it's so important that whatever plan, whether it's for a workout or, for emotional release or on whatever level it's going to be, it has to be personal, it has to be personally adapted to your very own situation. And if somebody, tries to just give out the average thing, like a fit all thing, then I don't think there's much chances of this eventually working out, because, each one of us is unique, and so we need an individual plan, individual goals, and we need somebody who has that discernment and who has the experience also, and who has the I would say the understanding that it's not about, okay, I have the plan, I know everything, and then you just follow what they say and then that's it, and it's the same thing for everybody. But it takes much more than that, to being like a coach, being a trainer, being a guide to somebody else ultimately must mean to guide them back to themselves and to empower them, by gifting them, by helping them to unveil that ability of guiding themselves and finding their true self. And I think it's super important to have that in mind, that it has to be individualized, that it has to fit to your personal life, to your level of fitness, to where you are mentally, where you are emotionally in that moment, and only then it can make sense, and only then you can have a long-term chance of actually achieving that.
So Dennis, this is kind of bringing you back to the personalization that you mentioned. Brings me back to how we got to this point in the plan in the course, like in planning. So first we did a self-discovery exercise to try to understand a little bit more about ourselves. And we did a values exercise, including a time study. Like, are we spending our time living our values? And we spent a little time trying to drop some of our baggage so that we could give ourselves permission to create the best vision that we could possibly see. Then we created our vision, and we spoke back from that vision to our present selves, telling ourselves the advice on how to get there to that vision. And now this is kind of the culmination of it, your individualized plan to get from here to there. So if you can conceptualize those individual modules into your plan, then align it with your personal goals and your personal vision, then it feels something to you, right? You feel it in yourself, and it pulls you. It's not like you're having to do something that somebody else has laid down for you or commanded you to do or is directing you. It's a self-directed activity.
I like the term, it resonates with you.
Yeah.
I was going to go back to what Dennis was saying about having guides. I think that a lot of people don't realize that seeking out a guide is planning. If you don't have the map, what are you going to do? You're going to go find someone who has a map. Even if it's not the best map, it's a map. And I think that another important, the reason I like the term guide so much is because if you have people lost on a trail, they don't know how to find you. You go to a healer, you go to someone who can fix your life, or a coach, but a guide almost has to go to you. They have to meet you where you're at and accept where you're at to be able to get you to move forward. I think that's incredibly important.
And it takes two, right? How does the saying go? Like the guide or the master will appear when the student is ready. So it's always two. There has to be like an openness, or like there has to be, you have to make space, for that to come to you. And then, like, was it Bruce Lee who said, your cup cannot be full? You have to empty the cup first so that you can that you can fill it with something else if you're ready and if you want that.
That's what they say. It's the sign of mastery. When you're a student, you think you know things, but when you're a master, you know that there's always more to learn. and so your cup essentially becomes empty and ready to receive more information, even on a topic that you've been studying for decades?
Those who know that they don't know really know.
Yeah, you see that humility missing from so many aspects of life, and really that allows you to continue learning and improving, is having some humility.
But sometimes humility might hold you back.
It may, but also it's maybe admitting that you don't know everything and that it's okay to fail provides a platform for moving forward.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't think true humility actually holds you back. If you're using humility to the point where you're being extremely submissive to everything, it's not humility anymore. It's low self-esteem.
Yeah.
So I think go ahead, Dennis.
With humility, because I lived in an environment where, well, I did not see very much of that, and circumstances, one might find different reasons for that, but and where humility or holding back and not jumping in the middle and being the I have all and I know all used to be considered a weakness, actually. But even then, even in a situation like that, when I would notice that like my being calm and standing back and being and practicing humility was taken as a weakness, or people were trying to take advantage of that, or like brush over me and run over me. That was a lesson for me as well, to not let that happen. But as long as I stayed with that, as long as I stayed in humility, I wasn't really getting harmed in that way. But it's only when you get rigid and when you feel like, you're not supposed to do, oh no, that's wrong, and you act on, then you get rigid, and then it gets you, so to say. But if you really stay with humility, and if it's based in in a true notion, then whatever happens or whatever other people do, that doesn't really affect you so much.
So since since Tim is effectively our guide for this, what would be, if you were going to coax us into taking that first step and following you along this really dark, scary path, which I'm sure there's spiders on, how are you going to do that?
And scorpions.
That's the tough part, Willow, is what is the reward for freeing the gold, right? What is the reward for taking the first step? And you created your vision, so is that compelling enough? Is the gap between where you are now and your vision strong enough for you to take some risk? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We dropped some baggage.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes, please. Well, that's good.
This is actually backed up in The Body Keeps a Score. It's a neural pathway. It's the way that I'm gonna stop myself before I start spouting information that I don't remember. it's well, I imagine that neural pathways, we've all seen it. I can only like kind of do it like this on my hand. So if you have these neural pathways, and say you have one that always has you react a different way, you have another that you can train. Well, in counseling, sometimes trauma victims or trauma survivors can live, their body will start reacting as if the trauma is happening because they are verbalizing it. They're physically, and I've noticed a lot of my clients, if they can't talk about it, if they can't even get to that point, they'll go, and like if you've ever tightened up your core, it's really hard to talk. And that's what it does. It tightens everything up.
It's fear.
And when you write it down, it goes on a different neural pathway. So it doesn't trigger that area. It goes in a different one and it says, oh, now I understand this a little bit better because it looks at it from a different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, but nobody else can heal you. You have to take responsibility for curing yourself, for healing yourself, for doing your own psychological work or your own allergy research. Because the professionals, massage therapists, the doctors, whatever, the lawyers, they all are just elements that you can employ in your process to make yourself go wherever you want to go. Right? So whatever your goal, whatever your vision, whatever your mission, you have to be the one driving the car. You can't let somebody else drive the car because you don't know where you're going to end up then.
And you have to be familiar with the terrain, with the immediate environment, and ideally not, through a two-dimensional map, but ideally because you stand in it and you experience it and you take it in with all your senses. And then as a permaculture designer, what strikes me is that even the word design, if you replace the word planning like with designing, then if you design a landscape, a balcony, a garden, whatever it is, then what you really do is you take in what your senses grasp, what you can see, what you can feel, what you can even smell and hear, and you work with those elements that are there right here and right now. So you acknowledge and you experience the patterns that are there, that nature provides, the different sources of energy. There's wind or there's sun. Also in so many hours, it comes from this direction, it goes down there, and there's so much wind. And then, oh, look at these birds, or look at those bushes in that tree. This tree is doing this and this doing that. So, like knowing all of those intricate elements, it gives you the opportunity to, to piece them together, but not doing something artificial, but actually working with natural patterns that are there already. So recognizing the patterns that are there, recognizing, the needs of the person, the personality traits, the emotional state, the fitness state, of the person, and then kind of piecing it together using the elements that are already there. And then it's not something artificial that you make, but you're actually using what is there and you're just optimizing it and designing a system that will, yield the highest yield, so to say, that will give you, the most output, but still it's still cyclical, and you have you're working basically with energies and with patterns that exist already. So it's it is making something run smoother through your design or through your plan.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's your design, it's your plan. And that's why people who have no goals or no plans, who just accept whatever the thing that people tell them to do or to be or to take steps, they end up stagnating and feeling like they're not really getting anywhere because it's not their plan. They're following someone else's plan, right? And that's when you end up going to work to make the money, to get the food, to get the strength, to go to work, to get the money, to get the food, to get the strength.
Ooh, I don't know all about that.
You mean you read Robert Heinlein, or you mean like in personal experience?
Personal experience for sure. But I think like adding your personal detail to your planning is the most important thing. So you have your values, and we did a goals and visioning exercise, and you apply that to the dimensions that are important to you. So that might be relationships, fitness, health, spiritual, self-improvement, education, professional, financial, whatever those dimensions are. And then within those dimensions, you apply your values. So you might pick out a couple goals on where you want to be within those dimensions, write those down, and then think about what would it take if I just made a little nibble at that every single day. Like, what actions would I have to take to start writing down an action plan to accomplish your vision by nibbling away at these things? Like, I'm not going to get there overnight. I may never get there, but if I don't take a little bite, I'm never going to eat the elephant. I got to get started.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also, I mean, sometimes those goals or those projections seem too big. Like, oh my gosh, I'll never get there. I'll never be president.
I was going along with the question I asked about like what's the next step, and I was like, okay, well, if the first step is my reward, that feeling that I imagined earlier, is that worth taking the risk? Okay, the answer is yes. What would be the second step? And I was like,
no,
okay,
no. The answer cannot be yes, because you know what? There's a lot of danger, and I'm likely to end up under a bridge on the way to getting to my dream.
I'm speaking for myself, though. Or like,
But
okay,
you're likely to end up under the bridge. What if you take a risk and
That's the point I'm making. So I was like, okay, well, what's the next question that I'm going to be asked? And the first thing that popped up was, well, what do you have to do? What's the first thing you have to do to get there?
Smallest step.
Yeah. The first thing was that it came to mind was, you got to stop being so scared.
But the first step doesn't have to be scary, and it doesn't even really have to be the defining step of your plan. It could just be a tiny step, like, I'm going to read an article in a newspaper.
So that's also a problem, because the second thought was, what if I never get there? What if I wasted all this time and I never get there, and I've just wasted all this time?
I think Dennis should talk about that.
Or wasting time?
Well, no, because you had a project that lasted 20 years. Essentially, you never got there, but you got so much. And there's a movie about it now. So did you never get there, or did you get there?
I think, what was and is essential for that was that every day I went out there, because it was so kind of like off the beaten path, and everybody was like shaking heads, and like, the family and the friends were like behind.
So hang on, back up. So it was a center for capoeira, to practice capoeira in Jamaica, right? On a mountain that you were building with your bare hands. Both of them.
So the vision, was like to build a holistic center that would accommodate capoeira, organic farming, permaculture, drumming, yoga, different modalities that I would offer, and others also would be able to offer to the children, but also then to tourists, and kind of bring people together from different walks of life.
So you picked a random mountain and you logged a bunch of rocks and branches and stuff.
I cut off the top of the mountain.
You cut off the top of this. Good start.
With his bare hands.
With a sword. Like, just chop.
That'd be
chop it down with the back of his hand.
I imagine the scene from Mulan where it's like the treetop, and then all of a sudden you see the Hun, and he's just like, whew, and it's all of a, he's the top of the tree now.
Here's Jimi Hendrix. He climbed up to the top of a mountain and chopped it down with the back of his hand.
and I carried up 13,000 car tires, and I built a road with it, and retaining walls, and the earthship and stuff. But anyway, like so it was like from day one, it was like, whoa, like things could go really wrong, like every moment here, and there's like
because the land didn't belong to you, right?
Yeah, that's, and then it was super steep, and there's hurricanes, and there's like adverse weather conditions, and there's thieves all over the place, and and like even then like driving the backhoe, several times I almost killed myself with that, because the solenoid would malfunction, and like instead of forward it went backward, and I almost went over the edge, and stuff like that. So it was like a really, so these circumstances, they forced me to every day really like look at myself and look up to the sky and say, like, do I really want this?
Shit, I'm still alive. Okay.
Like every morning I would be questioning. I'd be like, is this really what you want? There'd be a part of me that's like, sit down, answer this question every morning.
Yeah. And then imagine everybody telling you, no, it can never work, it's crazy, and it's this, and it's like, oh, okay, whatever. And then we'd be like, if it's me and my shovel, then it's me and my shovel, and if people see value in it, they will come, and and things will start run better. And it did eventually, and like and all of a sudden, you can actually walk up there. And then after a year or two, like, there's actually a road that you can, a four-wheel drive can reach up there. And so it's like, whoa. So there's different people for different things in life. Some are there, to some pioneer work, and they open up some trails, and then others, make it broader, and then the next one come and drive up with a comfortable car, but brings other stuff. So, but the essential thing for me was to, and that now is so important too, because I don't feel like I lost anything, like much to the contrary, like and even after going back there a few months ago, revisiting the whole thing, is like, wow, like that. It's such a powerful experience, and like all those memories, all those adventures that came back, it's like although it never really that vision that I had, it never came to fruition in the way that I was imagining it to be, But because every day I went there, I really was like, do I really want this? I was like, yeah, it feels great. Look around, look, the moon over my head, and I'm standing here like pounding night after night and pounding dirt in the tide of the earth. Yeah, it feels great. I feel alive. I feel like I'm doing something. It's good for me. It will be good for other people. It will be good for the planet. And it's like I feel fulfilled with it. It's like I have this vision, for my children and playing there one day and so. So it feels good and it feels great. It felt like I was doing the right thing. And that's all I needed. Like I didn't need anymore. I didn't need anybody else to say, yeah, go ahead or whatever. And then even if when things got like really tough, then I will still persist and go through. And then some might argue that that's just like a reaction also. It gets tougher no even more. But like I knew that, and I was doing the right thing for me, and that's all I needed really. And now, like looking at it now, it's like, oh, there's so many other ways, so many lessons and life lessons that I learned from that. And now really it is like with that additional, experience and knowledge that again through autonomy, with you guys, this for me are like building blocks. It's like, okay, I'm learning a new skill, I'm getting a new perspective, and like, how can I use, all those moments of my life, and if you want even previous lives, the culmination of all of those moments is right here and right now. So how can I use those building blocks and apply, the self-discovery, the techniques, the perspectives, the friendships, the family that I have? How can I apply and put all of that together and make this a stepping stone for the future that I envision for myself and my family? And that's really what it's about for me. It's like, even if it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to be, like obviously it wasn't the greater plan, for that to happen, but that's still okay. So I want to align myself with that greater plan that I feel is manifesting through myself. So I'm not even
Maybe it was
I
just a
don't even want
trial
to go in
run.
resistance.
Maybe it was just a practice because you're going to build something greater, or maybe it was just for the knowledge. Like a lot of the things that I do are just for the knowledge of it.
Mm-hmm. And important is not to go into resistance, right? Not, oh, why me again? On it went all wrong. It didn't go the way I want. It's like then, but because the vibe that you're putting out, then it's like everything is wrong and everything is going wrong. But that's also just a label. Everything is as it is. It goes the way it goes, and supposedly there's some reason for it, even if I cannot see it right now. But maybe I can put myself in a perspective where I can see how it all makes sense in some kind of way. I can accept that maybe.
Dennis, we have a question from a listener who is asking something with Patois, and I believe he's Jamaican. He says, "Hi, what's up, brother? Where are you from?" So you can tell him where your Earthship was located in Jamaica. If he's really in Jamaica, maybe he can check it out.
Yeah, man, Wagwan, sir. It is upon one mountain about 4 miles up from Kingston in the Norbrook area. So you can go and check it out. It is the same way still. Which part you're from, brother?
I don't know. We'll find out. If he writes again, I'll let you know, or her, or it could be it would be a lady. I'm just presuming. Sorry, Willow.
I was saying Dennis's accent was so hard. I thought that
he was switching languages.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is Dennis's accent when he's talking to us, and then just hearing you talk
in Jamaican.
I'm like, I can't even tell the difference between the Jamaican words that I understand, the English that I understand, and the words that I don't understand.
Something just came out of his mouth, and it was like French, but not.
That's right. It was nice.
Oh, maybe so the answer is I'm from Guadeloupe, French West Indies.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay, nice. Wow, so, amazing.
Thanks for listening.
Amazing how we're reaching out to the world.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So when you get stuck, we talked about like when you get stuck and you can't move off of square one, is where Willow was because of fear or other things. And there's a few.
That's when coffee comes in.
Yeah. I mean, what Dennis was referring to was the benefits of the journey and not necessarily the outcome. And I think as you begin your journey, the outcome is uncertain. And then even if you reached your goal, you would have a new goal, a new journey. It's always pushing out ahead of you and in front. But a method for overcoming fear is to try to do an exercise of what am I going to get if I keep doing what I'm doing now? Well, I'm going to be getting the same thing. And then what's the best that I could possibly do if I put some effort in? And then what's the worst that could possibly happen if things went in the other direction? You create that gap between the two that draws you towards the good and towards the first step, and you make it as small as possible. so that you get the benefit of taking the step in fear, or in fear of maybe not taking the step, is more fearful than actually taking the step.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little addition from Payne. As soon as they heard your accent, they knew that you were a neighbor. And if you'd like to hear more of Dennis's accent and his stories about Jamaica and about Brazil and about capoeira, you can watch our previous videos. There's a face reading with Dennis where he tells a lot of stories, and they're a lot of fun. So I definitely recommend listening to Dennis some more. Oh, and also the first one when he first came back from Jamaica, that was a lovely, I don't know, that was like our 4th show or something. But yeah. So I wanted to say about coffee, because when you're in, what I mean by coffee, I don't mean coffee like actual coffee. I mean, when you're so afraid and so paralyzed with fear that you don't know where to go, what you could do is find one thing that you have complete and total control over, like a coffee. Like, and this is water, but I have total control over what kind of water goes into this cup. And I can rejoice in it. I can rejoice that I have fresh spring water that's not like from a tap, and that makes me happy. Not from a bottle.
Well, I think when I was thinking about my answer earlier, I realized that it has to do with the collection of accomplishments. That's what comes to mind. Especially with trauma survivors, it's really hard to own any accomplishment. So it made me realize that I was not viewing each individual step as an accomplishment. It was all of those steps and then getting to the final goal, and then it's accomplished. So it would make sense that it would be weird for me to be like, okay, well, I don't want to do half the steps and then give up on this because I didn't get any accomplishment. I didn't finish the goal. But when you value each accomplishment individually, I think it adds up, and it gives you a much more accurate picture of what the value truly is.
And each accomplishment is an accomplishment in and of itself. By the way, quick update from Payne. Likes our channel. We'll be subscribing. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. This is what we do, this work. So, and it's getting better all the time.
Sweet. One thing that comes to my mind about confronting fear, which is something that happens, constantly, like in capoeira, the Brazilian martial art that I'm teaching, which is also a game. So if you're in a situation where fear kicks in, and with working with children, especially also like as a capoeira coach, when I see fear is there, and many of the children I work with were traumatized as well, and if they go into that state, or if they're afraid to do a movement or to go and actually play with each other, then to bring back to their awareness that it's a game. Oh, it's a game, it's playful, play. We don't even say we fight, but it's a game. So if you find yourself in a situation where fear is kicking in, then, and you look at the situation, then it's always something super serious. But like, can you change your perspective, and can you see it as a game, as a game that you're playing? That's a game. That's something joyful, actually. Don't be so involved in it. You have this we have this game in German. It's called Mensch, ärgere dich nicht, which is man or woman, don't get vexed, or don't get upset. And it's like, because when your little men like are thrown off, and you have to go back to your hole and whatever, and then come back out, then it's like people get involved and they get vexed. But the idea is not to identify with those little players and with being thrown, but to enjoy the game anyway, and to stay in that joy. So when in capoeira, when you lose the sense of the game, and that it's actually a playfulness, and it gets really serious, then something is lost. Because there's seriousness, but at the same time there's playfulness. So those two things, they have to go together, because it's a fight, but it's also a game. Or they're playing, but they're also almost kicking off each other's heads. But the intention is not to hurt each other. The intention is to be in that flow, and the intention is to maintain that playfulness. And when we lose the playfulness, then it's easy to get serious and to get overwhelmed, and then we're like in a fear and kind of fight and flight mode. So to retain that notion of playfulness, it's something that helps me to, don't take it so it's a game. They thief the backhoe right there, or the engine's like, oh, who are they thieving it from? It didn't belong to me in the first way. What belongs to me anyway in this life? Not even this body is mine. It's just given to me, like, as for
To
a certain
play
amount
with.
of time. I don't even know for how long. Yeah. So let's play with what we have. We have money. Okay, let's play with it. We don't have money. Okay, let's play with something else. But don't let's try not
That's
to
a
be
very
too
good
serious.
attitude. Absolutely. I mean, but that's what I've been doing to make myself feel more comfortable about making all my dreams come true. Because my dreams are not really like, I mean, yeah, sure, everybody has the dreams when they're young of like becoming a millionaire, blah, 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 blah. But that's not really what I want in life. Like, I'm old now, right? What do I want? I want certain things. And so as I come up with these ideas, oh, I would like to this, I would like that, I've taken actual steps, tiny beginning steps, to make that happen. I'm writing my dreams on my little whiteboard next to my desk so I can see them every day. So every day I go to work, I know why I'm working. Because otherwise, why are you working? Right? I'm sure if I stopped working, somebody would feed me. So that's not why.
You said it the other day. You're in Canada. Yeah?
That's right. I'm in Canada. I don't really need to work. There's social services for that. No, but that's a horrible existence. I mean, seriously. Oh my gosh.
I was going to comment on the playing because I noticed that personally in my own jiu-jitsu class, the people who I learned the most from, especially in my very, as much as I hate saying these words, when I'm in like a very triggered state, I'm very dysregulated. I can't control what's going on. Especially like my emotions and my bodily reactions. Like it's very strange. The times where I get overwhelmed, they're always with someone who is kind of like I'm going to teach you a lesson kind of person versus I'm going to teach you a lesson, but I'm going to have fun with it and we're going to play. And I actually refer to it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's playful. I can tell my body relaxes. I can focus on the pressure, where the pressure is on my body. And it's not, oh dear God, this is painful, or oh dear God, this is life-threatening. It's more of a, oh, okay, this is someone on top of me, someone playing roughly with me. It's like a different neural pathway. It's something I've never not often experienced.
So, it's 5 minutes before the top of the hour. I know we started a couple minutes late, but we should bring it back to planning. No, shit, we should bring it back to journaling. So we have this challenge that every week we're supposed to report on our journaling. And you can see by my face how I'm looking forward to this week's report.
Well, I'll go first. I didn't do anything.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the first person to say that. I also didn't do well on my journaling this week.
I hope Mike is watching this, because if he leaves for a week, this is what happens. Complete and total chaos. I also was shit at my journaling the last week.
I did update my daily goals, but I didn't write anything about it.
I updated my daily questions, like the journal with questions, but I didn't do the thing, and I certainly didn't do the mind dump. But the mind dump would have been really helpful, and I sat there Sunday afternoon looking at my journal and didn't do it.
I will say, it's always self-sabotage, because if you want something,
oh, okay.
I used to hate this phrase. It would infuriate me to the core when someone would say, if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way to get it. It would just infuriate me, because I was like, no one understands what I'm going through and how much trouble I'm having. But it really is true. If you're not getting something, you may have a hand to play in it. And it also may be, their hands are also playing, and it's not just your hands.
I was able to do a half page, and I could do much better as well, obviously. But what stood out for me is that I kind of I seem to enjoy, like talking from a different perspective, like even as if I'm counseling myself or giving myself, ideas and tips. Yeah. So that stuck with me from the other week when I did the regression thing, and I had this, experience of being in a different state and kind of talking about myself or to myself in a way. And some of that kind of stuck with me for this week. So when I wrote down things, it's like, it almost feels like it, it still comes from that kind of different awareness, and it feels interesting because I'm looking at myself and I'm like speaking more it resonates more deeply with me because it's like, oh, try this and do that, look at it from that perspective. So it's like, as if somebody is giving me advice. And then when I read through that again, it's like, it's something, oh wow, like I can appreciate it because it's like, oh, it's advice for me. It's like very personal. Oh, I have to personalize that. It's really like just for me, and oh, that makes actually sense. So that's
the person giving you advice knows you really, really well.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I noticed that not doing my journaling consistently for the last week ended up screwing up my whole schedule. Like all of a sudden I was missing. I only made it to one of my jiu-jitsu classes. I do 3 a week. Ended up missing a couple of other things and forgot about appointments. Just it's kind of like when I was like, oh, well, I don't have to do journaling this morning. It's like, okay, you also don't have to like drink water and exercise a little bit and do your morning routine. You're good. You don't have to do anything.
So if you were having a session with yourself, you would say that was your teenager taking over?
Yes, and I would advise all of what I said to be a journal entry. Be like, okay, that's. And
You made me cough again.
I can feel my own irritation and resentment at my parts, just like rolling her eyes, like, really, we're doing this on live broadcast.
Raising Excellence, where we launder our dirty laundry and air it out for everyone to see.
So you don't have to.
Cities made it illegal in real life, but we can still do it virtually.
Wait, is that true?
In some cities, I don't know.
That's absurd.
Yeah, I know.
So is everybody making a plan now? Everybody making a plan. Write it down.
Well, I've had a plan, but I
Yep.
can't tell you guys about it now because it's like it's too quick, too soon. I'm going to tell you
Okay.
about it on Wednesday. Wednesday,
Perfect.
7 p.m. Eastern. Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll be continuing to talk about planning, and we'll be continuing to talk about how planning has made a difference. The other thing I wanted to talk about this week,
The exercise.
maybe not today. Well, yeah. So there's the exercise. We posted it on our Facebook page, and it'll be in the description. We mentioned that before, so you can do the exercise, and we'll discuss it on Wednesday. The other thing I wanted to discuss is the 20 hours, because I think the 20 hours and the planning are really connected with each other.
Yes.
But I'm not going to tell you listeners what 20 hours is, because you have to tune in on Wednesday to listen to what the 20 hours is.
Don't worry, it's not 20 hours in one shot.
Yeah, you don't have to eat all the food for the next year in one sitting.
Like it.
All right, you guys. So we'll close it out for today's. Anybody have any closing remarks about planning, about journaling, about anything?
Nope. Good work.
Let's make God love.
He's already laughing, just seeing our faces on the interwebs.
For sure.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for our newest subscriber. And I'm sure there were a few more about that besides him, her, maybe. I'm not sure. In any case, wonderful to have everybody listening to us. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And there's some footage of a cute dog right beside me. On that note, we'll say bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.